persons with disability face discrimination daily because of their disability. But to read they are susceptible as well to sexual and gender-based violence is very disheartening. How true is this statement?
Yes, the statement is very, very correct. As a matter of
Hmm.
fact, persons living with disabilities, especially women living with disabilities, they are very, very vulnerable to sexual and gender based violence. These women are already prejudiced for the fact that they are women in an African setting. And combining that sociological issues of being a woman in an African setting with disability makes their case more pathetic. So women with disabilities are very, very prone to sexual and gender-based violence in a very higher degree, if you ask me, because of their vulnerability. Yes.
So are persons living with disabilities disproportionately affected by sexual and gender-based violence than other group of women?
Well, not that they are disproportionately affected, but what I'm trying to say is that they are not immune to it. And the fact their vulnerability already has even made them more vulnerable, to sexual and gender-based violence because people capitalize on this vulnerability, on these their deficiencies, to try to abuse them in all manners. For instance,
Okay.
a blind person, in fact, they're not only susceptible to sexual and gender-based violence. I also say that they are equally susceptible to disability-based violence. For instance, let me tell you what I'm talking about when I talk about
All right.
disability-based violence, yes. Apart from the sexual and gender-based violence, which they are equally prone to, disability-based violence is a situation whereby somebody capitalizes on the situation of a blind person, for instance, based on the cases we've had. For instance, somebody might see a blind person that is looking for direction. The person might pretend as if he is trying to help. And because the person is blind, you do not even know where you're being taken to. And some of these unscrupulous fellows might just lead them to a situation or to a place where they can manipulate them, have them sexually and just get them abandoned there. And before the person will even get his or her bearing as a blind person, to start looking for how to pick up her walking stick, to look for where to report. Of course, but your guess is as good as mine. So they're very vulnerable. Their situation, their situation as people or persons with disability, makes them more vulnerable to sexual and gender-based violence and disability-based violence.
That's a very